Hi friends! This is Athena here with Vegan Proteins, and today we are going to talk about navigating conversations as a vegan with your family throughout the holidays. Let's get into it. Veganism is a topic that is extremely emotional. It's not just about any belief, it's about something that you absolutely value to your core, something that you resonate with completely, and you just want everyone else to understand you. I absolutely understand that. And that is why it is so important that you are able to stay calm and that you are able to stay composed. Although it might be tricky at times, it is one of the most important things because it is so easy to completely just go off the rails and get so amped up and emotional because it's an emotional topic, and I understand that. So that is my number one tip. Number one tip is to stay calm as hard as it possibly can be. Number two, active listening. This is also so vital. You want to be having a conversation. You don't want to be speaking at people, and you don't want people speaking at you. You want to be having dialogue. You want to have a conversation. You want to understand their point and where they're coming from. If they say something that's completely off the rails, and of course it's going to, bug you a little bit, but it's so important to understand where that's coming from so that you're able to navigate the conversation from a more logical perspective, from a more conversational perspective. So if someone says, well, I could never do that. Everyone always says, I'm vegan, well, I could never do that. It's so easy to then go, well, yeah, you can. But instead, ask questions. Why do you say that? Where is that coming from? Have an understanding of where they're coming from, where their point of views are coming from, because that's going to help you understand them better, understand their perspective better. And I know it sucks because you don't want to understand their perspective, but it's important. If you want to change someone's mind, if you want to change someone's perspective, you have to understand where they're coming from, and you have to also be willing to let the conversation go, because it's not always going to end how you want it to, and it probably won't end how you want it to. So making sure that you are actively listening to them, participating in the conversation, being curious about why they think the way they do, where those thoughts are coming from, where the perspective is coming from. These are all super important. They're going to be helpful. Number three, asking open-ended questions. That is so important. It's very similar to active listening. You want to be asking questions that's going to that's going to create conversation, that's going to create dialogue, it's going to create curiosity, instead of saying, well, why don't you just go vegan? It's not fair to them, because it's not understanding them, it's not understanding where they're coming from, it's not being very kind, rather than, okay, so I'm curious, why have you never explored veganism? Or maybe, I don't even think I would say that actually. Maybe just, what thoughts do you have about veganism? What comes to mind when you're thinking about veganism? What seems like the hardest part of navigating veganism? Just asking open-ended questions rather than yes or no questions, basically. That's going to be also very important to creating that dialogue, creating that active listening, is being able to ask questions that aren't just yes or no and are also curious about them. That's a super important factor. Another one is to focus on facts and examples. So don't just go spewing all of your thoughts, all of your beliefs, all of your emotions. It's important to stick to the facts and use examples so that you're able to, come from a place of kind of a little bit of superiority, like you have the better understanding, you know what's going on, and you can support it with facts and examples. This is a little tough one because there's just so many questions that can be a little challenging to answer, and we might not always be in the right place to answer. We might not always have all of the information to answer, and that's also okay. If someone asks you a question and you're like, I honestly have no idea, that's okay. You can say, that's something that I actually don't have the answer to. You don't have to argue about it. You don't have to discuss it. Right then and there, you can say, I do not have the answer to this question right now, but I do want to research this and talk about this at a later time, if you're open to that. Leaving it open so that you're able to talk about it later. It's not a closed discussion. It's just something that you're able to then research, get a better understanding of, and then you guys can have an open conversation where you're both able to understand each other's perspective and you're coming from a point of knowledge rather than a point of feeling. And when we're coming from a place of feeling, it's really hard to not get overly emotional and not get overly suffocating to the other person. So that's another really good one, is just coming from facts. I love to watch Earthling Ed's videos. He always brings up really great facts. He's a great person that just knows how to discuss with other people. He knows how to navigate the conversation. So I definitely recommend watching him if you want to learn how to navigate those kinds of conversations. And then there's also, he has a book, Vegan Propaganda, Ed Winters. That's another really good one. Animal Liberation is something that I'm reading right now by Peter Singer. That's the guy. There's so many good books out there that would help you create the knowledge that you need to navigate these conversations. So I highly recommend all those resources and many more. There are tons out there that'll give you the answers that you need to have these conversations, or to come to these conversations with facts and examples. You know, like, will plants feel pain? Okay, come to that. Come to that with logic and really explain the difference between a plant feeling pain and an animal feeling pain, and which one can actually suffer. Being able to ask questions like that, that's gonna help the dialogue. It's going to help them understand, like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best or the most logical argument right there. So that's a good one. Using we statements is also super important. Instead of saying you, this is good for this. Honestly, all of this is good for literally any argument that you ever have, by the way. So hopefully you can use this in all of your arguments. But instead of saying you and always pointing the finger, using we statements, using I statements. So maybe instead of, you really make me feel like crap when you say things like that. It's gonna make the person feel more triggered. It's going to make them feel like you're attacking them, rather than saying, I feel really hurt when I hear people saying that animals don't matter. Rather than saying you, blaming them, making them feel attacked, making them feel triggered, because then they're going to come with a response that is probably not going to be very pleasant. It's not going to make you feel good. And again, this can go for literally any conversation. If you're having a conversation with your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your friend, using I statements or we statements is going to be so much more beneficial than ever saying the word you, because it makes people automatically defensive. It puts their guard up right away. So it's something that I highly recommend that one. Pausing and reflecting. So when you're in the midst of a conversation and maybe you get really emotional, or maybe you get really angry, whatever the emotion is, just taking a second to pause. You do not have to respond immediately. Anytime someone says something, you can pause. You are allowed to do that. Give yourself time, even if it's a minute, a couple of seconds, maybe an hour. Give yourself that time to just pause and reflect, so that you know where you want the conversation to go from here. Because we don't want to come to these conversations with complete emotion. Although it's very emotional, we need to be able to navigate these conversations with facts and approachability. We want to be able to navigate these conversations without making the other person feel absolutely terrible, because that's not going to be a very productive conversation. It's not going to make them feel very good, and it's also not going to make them want to change. If they feel like, okay, that conversation actually made me feel like crap, rather than like, wow, I actually learned a lot, I now have a better understanding, that's going to be a completely different outcome of maybe you planted a seed, whereas maybe the other one was, dug the hole just a little deeper. So that's another really important one. Just taking a second to pause and reflect on what you want to say, what you're going to say, how you're going to say it. That's also super important. And we also want to agree to disagree. If the conversation isn't going anywhere, agree to disagree. If the feelings are amping up, if everyone's getting riled up, if everyone's getting angry, agree to disagree and allow the conversation to be over, because at the end of the day, it's very unlikely that you're going to change anyone's mind in the first place. Not right then and there. It's usually, you might be able to change their perspective on a couple of things, but they're not going to go vegan right then and there. Very unlikely. Some people, there's some people that are able to do that, but very unlikely that it's going to be the common denominator of people just saying, oh yeah, you had some really good points, I'm gonna go vegan right now. Actually, this whole family should go vegan right now. It's not gonna happen. We have to be slow. We have to be open. We have to be approachable. We have to be able to conversate kindly and with compassion and understanding for them, and understanding that it's not easy to change your lifestyle. Maybe it was easy for you, but that doesn't mean it's easy for everyone. Accessibility is different for every person. Understanding is different for every person. Education is different for every person. And it's not easy for people to just change overnight. It takes time, and it's actually very emotional for them too, to to have to think about changing their lifestyle because it's uncomfortable. It's an uncomfortable topic for both parties, and I want all of us to understand that it's not easy, and I know it's emotional for us because it is just one of those things where it's just like, just understand, please, just understand. Animals are hurting and we want them to not hurt anymore. And that sucks. It sucks that people don't necessarily get it. That's why it's so important for us to be able to learn how to navigate these conversations and how to be kind and approachable and reflective, you know, helping them have reflective questions and not making them feel like crap. We want these conversations to be productive. And then also, if you just want to have a family dinner, you haven't seen your family in a long time, and this conversation, you know, is going to just completely ruin your night, you don't have to have it right then and there. Who said that we have to bring up all of our family trauma on the holidays? We don't have to do that. You can talk to them about it at a different time. You can say, you know what? I'm going to pause right there. Boundaries. I'm going to pause you right there. I don't actually want to have this conversation right now. I just want to enjoy my night. I would love to have this conversation another time if you're open and willing. That would be awesome. I would really like to do that. And leave it at that. And don't talk about it that night. It's totally okay. It's totally okay. Don't expect your family to understand veganism. We can't expect it. It's not fair to them. Again, we have to be a little bit more logical and being open and understanding, like, not everyone gets veganism, and we know that. Oh, is chicken vegan? Is fish vegan? It's like, okay, we've heard it all before. And we can't expect our family to understand. So it's our job to answer questions if they have them, and also respect that if they don't remember, just, you know, kindly remind them, nope, that's not vegan. Oh yeah, showing appreciation for anyone that brings vegan food, because that's really, really awesome that they're putting in the effort and that they're trying. And even if the vegan dish doesn't taste that great, eat it. Eat a little bit of it and tell them how absolutely appreciative you are, because they put in the thought, they put in the care. I would give them a lot of recognition and appreciation for them, because that always feels so good. It's like, oh, I made this vegan for you. It's like, stop it. That's one of the best feelings ever. And another one is bringing your own food. We already know. Bringing your own food, making sure that you have a plate, making sure that you're not showing up hungry if you know that they're not going to have a lot of vegan food for you. Bringing some things that you know you really, really want. So let's say you really like stuffing and you really like cheesecake. Bring the vegan versions of those things for yourself so that you know that you're going to get them, and not expecting everyone else to cater to your lifestyle. It would be awesome if they did. Wouldn't that be great? But we have to take accountability and make sure that we get what we need by bringing those things for ourselves. Bringing food for everyone, something to share. So again, if you're bringing the vegan stuffing or the vegan cheesecake, whatever, vegan pumpkin pie, whatever you bring, making sure that it's absolutely delicious so that they are like, oh wait, this is vegan? Make them question it. Make it so good that they're questioning, like, is this really vegan? Anytime you have desserts, I feel like that's always a hit. They're like, really? I didn't know desserts could taste this good. And it's like, what the heck? Literally all you have to do is replace the egg or the milk. So I think those are some great ideas. And lastly, just being positive spirit, being appreciative, being kind, showing love, just being, you know, leading by example, showing that you're the bigger person by being kind, by being nice, by shutting down the emotions just a little bit. I know it's hard, and letting things go, and coming from knowledge, coming from facts, coming from understanding. That's going to help you guys really go through the holidays. So I'm going to leave it at this. I hope you guys have an absolutely wonderful holiday season. And that's it. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all the other things that you do at the end of a YouTube video. If you have any questions, concerns, if you want to leave a comment talking about your experience this holiday, please do. And we will talk to you soon. Toodles!